How's it going, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Nick Bailey's Spearfishing. This video is from a recent road trip where I made a 2-day pit stop in Louisiana. Crazy enough, this was some of the coolest spearfishing I've ever done in my entire life. We're diving oil rigs, which is pretty much the perfect structure to hold tons and tons of life. This is a big old mangrove snapper. My first fish in Louisiana. Got a nice spine shot. We're dealing with some really weird viz. The guys all described it as Oreo viz. Basically, really bad viz on the surface. You get a layer where it gets clean, and then it gets really bad again. This meant our hunting was limited to one layer. Now, overall, my biggest concern was hitting my head on the way up from a dive. What I did to combat this was just keep my arm extended above me. That way, it would hit my hand first, and I could maneuver myself out of the way. I told my buddy I'd love to shoot a cobia, and he said no problem. So he dropped me in on a couple of these cell towers, and sure enough, some showed up almost immediately. Lining up on the biggest one, I want to make sure I get a good shot, and I absolutely did. So now I need to make sure that this fish doesn't get tangled. So I'm really just trying to horse him in, not give him any line. Luckily, I moved that line just barely out of the way. And just like that, I've secured a 30-pound cobia. From there, we moved to a big old buoy that's sitting out in like 110 feet of water. I'm making a drop through the murk. Ronnie told me that we were marking a bunch of red snapper at around 80 to 90 feet. So my plan was to get down there and see if I could get one. I'm going to give y'all some context while I drop down. Basically, the entire reason that I was able to stop in Louisiana was because I was driving to California to ship my truck to Hawaii, which is where I'm at right now. Somewhere along the lines of that trip, I lost all of the footage from my above water cameras. Super unfortunate, but at least I got all the action from underwater to show you guys, and I got a new SD card for my camera, so I will be filming a ton out here in Hawaii. This red gets just a little bit too close, and I'm able to get a perfect stone shot. Definitely the deepest drop of the day, pulled the trigger at 88 feet.
$88? Hell yeah, that was sick. There's like 3. Dude, lit. That was so sick.
Not only is this structure something I'm totally not used to diving, also the style that we were spearfishing was totally different as well. We were going down in packs of like 1, 2, or even 3 people at certain times, and that's something I'm just not used to doing in Florida. Ronnie pretty much had a fishtail for every single rig that we went to. No matter where we pulled up, he had a story. It was really cool hearing what types of fish he had pulled off these rigs over the years. Chadstone's a nice red, and if you look close, you can see a couple cobia cruising right under Ronnie and I. This is where the action just became incredible. I'm on a dive right now at this rig that Ronnie told us was his favorite in high school. Take my time, wait for a really nice red, and get an awesome shot.
Sweet.
Ronnie's turn to shoot a fish, so I decided to go down and film him. There were so many reds around, it really allowed him to be super selective and pick out a monster. He's banging some barnacles against each other to make some noise, and just watch how fast it calls in all these reds.
Dude, that is a stud, man. Awesome shot. That was so sick.
Hell yeah, let's kill some more.
Yeah.
This specific rig must have been the most lively one that we saw the entire time. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of red snapper. Big tarpon kept cruising around, and it allowed us to be so selective. As this whole school closes in on me, I can see about 3 or 4 that are really nice and the rest that I'd probably leave. 2 of them end up lining up together, so I go for that double shot, and I don't know what happened, but I ended up getting one really nice one, so cannot complain. Now, Louisiana is notorious for having really nice cobia on these rigs. We saw tons of small ones, but weren't seeing very many big ones. When I saw these 2, I really considered shooting the bigger one. It was probably just over 20 pounds, but I decided to hold off on that. I could see Ronnie's red was probably about to get snagged on something, so would rather just move that around a piling and make it easier. We had to have been over 10 miles offshore, so seeing tarpon was really odd. They looked super out of place. Right here, I'm kind of hanging onto the pole right above a Merc lair and kind of right below one as well. Our Oreo was smaller here, but the Viz on the way up wasn't quite as bad, so I wasn't very nervous about hitting my head on anything, luckily. After we speared a few fish in this school, they became a little bit more wary, so I would just go down and hold my place for a really long time, give some grunts, some scratches, just see what I could call in. These were some pretty long dives. My dive times were averaging around just under 2 minutes on this rig. The reason for that was because I was breathing up for so long and we were sitting pretty shallow because the Merc lair closed off right around 50 feet. Didn't see any that I felt were worth pursuing on this dive, so I decided to come up. There were 2 old men fishing on this rig from a boat, and they weren't catching much, so Ronnie decided to shoot a mangrove snapper and give it away to them. Chase shot another really big mangrove and decided to do the same thing. These old guys were pumped. Ronnie rolls another nice red right here, and then we decide it's probably time to move rigs. This was really, really cool. A very small platform compared to the rest that we were diving on. Got my first dive right here. I was feeling real good, so I just wanted to lay down on one of these pipes and just kind of hang. Scanning back and forth. Tons of bait, tons of little reds. I'm just waiting for that bigger one to appear. I was checking out this nurse shark because that looked pretty out of place, and then I saw the one nice red on this rig. Totally should have taken the shot right there, but just didn't feel comfortable. I figured he'd probably come back, give me another look. Now check this out. I still don't know what happened. Either he dodged it, or I missed it, or my shaft went a little bit left. But somehow I didn't get that fish. As we were moving to the next rig, we marked a whole bunch of bait and some bigger marks on the sonar. Ronnie told me there was definitely going to be a couple cobia, and as soon as we got in, we were met with 2 of them. He's really taking his time, making sure that he shoots the bigger fish and waits for it to go outside of the rig so that he doesn't get tangled up. One cobia down and one more to go. This is probably my favorite video that I took of the entire trip. I'm heading down, and I know I'm going to lay on a crossbar right above the Merc. I can see that there's a bunch of reds, but none of them are big, and I have no idea if I'll be able to call any bigger ones out of the Merc. Got another really good breathe up, so I was ready to stay down there as long as it would take. I knew if I just stayed down there long enough, eventually the reds would probably become curious to that grunting and scratching and come in for a closer look. Just looking for one red that stands out from the crowd, a little bit bigger. This guy comes in, and I get a perfect stone shot. I was really pumped on this fish. Super fun hunt, and you really can't ask for a better shot than that. I went ahead and threw a timer on this video so you guys could see how long these dives are. This one was super cool. So I'm diving really, really slow so that I can conserve energy. I know I'm going to be down there a really long time. And it's also better because once I land, it's not so abrupt, hopefully meaning that I won't spook anything. I always try to land in a spot where I won't have to use much energy to keep myself in the same place. Conserving every bit of energy possible is absolutely key on these long dives. I'm dusting a little bit and giving some grunts, just trying to remain overall really calm and still. I feel great at this point. No worries. Fish are just surrounding me. I know I have a super good shot at seeing some big reds. I notice a big red coming in right here, and I'm trying to remain super calm. I want my gun to be in the perfect position so that the second that this fish gives me the broadside, I can get a good headshot. And that is exactly what I did right there. Crazy how long you can make your dives if you really just take your time. This is the longest dive I've ever shot a fish on. $214.
That was 220 for me, yeah.
God damn. Well,
I'm ready to roll whenever.
yeah, me too. There was one more thing we had to do before we got out of there. Shoot one more cobia. Got a sick headshot on that thing, or so I thought. I started getting dragged around so hard, and I'm just pulling as hard as I can, making sure that this fish does not get tangled down in that murk. As I'm kicking, Ronnie notices that it's got a big tear in its head from my shot, and he decides that this fish definitely needs a backup shot. He takes his time, lines up, and smokes him. Now, cobia doing what it does best, absolutely tangling everything. All because my shot had a slightly weird angle that I could not tell at the time of pulling the trigger.
Not here? That'll work. That'll work. All right. He's dead now. But god dang, dude. I don't know how those things managed to get off of everything.
Well, thank you guys so much for tuning into this video. My first Hawaii catch and cook will be out in less than a week, and I cannot wait to see you there.